What do you say, everybody? And welcome back to Bama Insider and the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Great to talk to you guys from Pearl River Resort. This is in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where we're hanging out at the sports book, the Timeout Sports Lounge. We got all the games going on in here. And for, the next hour, we're going to talk about bowl season. Let me introduce Chad Anderson. Chad is an Alabama alumnus. He's been a long-time man in the radio business, and also a guy that loves to play the odds. So I figured I'd bring Chad on as we preview these games. What's up, dude?
What's going on, Mick? How are you?
Look, man, I'm doing well. I know we're going to talk a lot about Alabama because, we're both pretty excited about this year's Crimson Tide team, right? But there's some other bowl games of interest. And, as you look through this Bama Insider audience, now there's a lot in Alabama, and there's been a big push to legalize gambling in Alabama. Now we're in Choctaw, Mississippi. That's where a lot of people from Alabama go to do, their gambling. They come to the sports book and hang out. You're in Tennessee and Nashville. You guys can get on an app and bet. So gambling's kind of become one of those things that's just a lot more accepted now and normalized all across the country.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say the market was that was going on with the secret bookies all over the country? Like you had to go to Vegas. That was the only way to play. And just all this money was being wasted because it was still being exchanged. Let's be honest. People are still making plays and doing that and whatnot. So I think it's great. You open this up. It's new revenue streams for states. It's more exciting for people. You got all these different kinds of betting options. And Mick, this is my second. It's like 1A, 1B. One of the best times ever to place bets is March Madness because you got 4 days of just nonstop action in that first weekend. Bowl season, though, is right there because people are off work. They're at home. They're hanging out. And you got nothing but games all day long. It's a little bit different with COVID this year, but still, it's one of the best times of the year.
Yeah, and the thing about this year with bowl season, and I guess it's kind of becoming that way I feel like since we added the college football playoff, is that we've kind of de-emphasized the meaning of these bowl games, and a lot of players opt out, whether that's for the NFL and this year with COVID, it's kind of become one of these things where you got to, look at these bowl games like Florida and Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma killed Florida, but when you looked at the team that Florida brought out, that wasn't the same team that they played against Alabama with.
Yeah, and that's always the thing with bowl games, and that's what the people who win, they're going to say, wow, look at what we did to Florida. The people who lose, we weren't really interested in being there. And that's always the battle and the struggle once you get outside of the college football playoff. And that's what Alabama ran into 2008. That's what they claimed is that playing Utah in the Sugar Bowl. Well, Bama was undefeated, lost to Florida in the SEC title. Are we really that excited about playing the Utes in New Orleans? Georgia's going to have the same thing. I know we're going to talk about that game. Georgia had a below par season for what Georgia anticipates and expects, and now they've got to play Cincinnati. That's not going to do anything for their program, but they've got to play them in the Peach Bowl.
Well, let's talk about that Peach Bowl game, and, we'll start there. I mean, we're going to get into Alabama, but we'll just kind of do it with a couple of these smaller games first. And I say smaller. Look, you got Cincinnati versus Georgia. This is Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, noon. I guess it would be 11 o'clock Central Time on New Year's Day, so tomorrow. Your thoughts on this football game? Now, is Georgia going to be the team that's interested in playing? Do they have a lot of guys that are opting out? And for Luke Fickell in this Cincinnati season, they've been undefeated. This is their opportunity now to be on the big stage. It almost reminds me of when Auburn played Central Florida a couple of years ago in the same bowl.
Exactly. Yeah, same setup. Auburn, if you remember going into that SEC championship game against Georgia, Auburn was primed to make the playoff. All they had to do was beat Georgia for the second time. Auburn was going to go. They ended up losing. They go back to the same stadium to play UCF that they played Georgia in. And so it wasn't like a destination place for their fans. They went right back to Atlanta, and then they play a team they're not excited about. And UCF, as we know, claimed the national championship that year. So I look at this game. Cincinnati does have the I want to prove something to the world mentality because they're in Ohio State's shadow. They're constantly going against them for recruiting. They're just a couple of hours southwest of Columbus. They're in that group of five, not the Power Five. They feel like they got a little shafted because Ohio State only played 6 games. And remember, Cincinnati in the rankings, they dropped when they didn't play football games. Ohio State didn't drop when they didn't play football games. They actually went up just from playing one football game. Cincinnati went the reverse direction. So they do have a chip on their shoulder. I would say, though, and Mick, you watch other games too. You don't only watch Alabama. You're a sports nut like all of us. You look at that Georgia team, and Georgia in the second half of the Alabama game got shut out. Then they had a week off. They went to Kentucky. I think they had a COVID week, not a scheduled week off. I think they had a COVID week in there. Then they went to Kentucky. They looked awful. Only scored 14 points with Stetson Bennett as quarterback. Then they played Florida, got shellacked, didn't look great. And then they make the quarterback change. And all of a sudden, JT Daniels, the transfer from USC, and Georgia are starting to put up numbers. They're starting to look like the Georgia from before, scoring 31, 45, and 49 after going shutout second half, 14 against Kentucky and 28 against Florida. So even though this Georgia team kind of ran into a midseason slump, and I think Cincinnati will be more motivated here, don't be surprised if Georgia actually comes out with a little chip on their shoulder as well.
Yeah, plus it's in their backyard. You know, you talk about playing in Atlanta. This is still a big game for them. You know, you want to have momentum going into the next season. I mean, a 3-loss season for Georgia, a team that started the campaign as one of the top teams in all of college football, would be, I think, a major letdown.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, this is Kirby Smart's done an amazing job recruiting. So this is an organization that they feel should be in the national championship picture every single year. And that's where they started out. I mean, Georgia started the year going, okay, we've got Bama on the road, but we expect to play them again in the SEC title. Really, we just need to win one of the two, and we're going to go to the playoff. And instead, you know, they really struggled. They couldn't find a quarterback until the month of November. And, yeah, they're in a spot that, yeah, they definitely did not have the season that they want. But we've seen that from Alabama, too, in the past. So we're going to really find out what kind of motivator Kirby Smart is. They're basically at home. They're in their backyard. They're in a season where they didn't perform the way they wanted to. However, they got a shot to win a New Year's Six Bowl and build on that to go forward because, yeah, they definitely did not look like the Georgia of recent years kind of midway through that season. And I think they are a 9-point favorite. I was pulling the spread back up for tomorrow's game, but I believe they're looks like a 7-point favorite now with the total at 51.5. So Georgia laying a touchdown. You got to remember in these games, to me, motivation, which Cincinnati will have, is going to play a part. But at the same time, Georgia is running out 4-star and 5-star, one after the other on the field. And a really good quarterback that only saw 3 games or so this year. So laying a touchdown, honestly, isn't that big of a number when you've got a team with this many athletes. It'll really come down to a lot of their attitude and desire to be playing. But just a touchdown is not a lot when you've got many more athletes than the opponent.
Having a good time talking college football with you in bowl season from Pearl River Resort here in Choctaw, Mississippi. Philly, you got the Golden Moon Casino, you got Silver Star, and we're at the Timeout Sports Lounge. All right, let's get into the second bowl game, and we're going to have one of our friends jump on with us here shortly, too, from Pearl River. You got another game of, January 1st elk. Let me throw this out here. New Year's Day Camping World Stadium, right? That's what they call it now in Orlando. This is the old Citrus Bowl, right? Or it still is the VRBO Citrus Bowl. It's between your Auburn Tigers and Northwestern.
Not my Auburn Tigers.
Not yours, not mine.
But yeah,
Got a coach now as well, right?
yeah. This one's really interesting because Auburn, I don't know about you, and I haven't even we talked a little bit about the Auburn coaching situation. And to me, it was like a C grade, in my opinion. I still can't get the fact that Auburn paid $21 million for the current coach to go away to bring in a coach that you really could have had at any given point. It wasn't the bombshell hire, I guess. So that's just really interesting. You wonder what kind of like hangover and what's going on inside the Auburn locker room. And you got Kevin Steele, who's going to be the interim coach, was a front runner at one point for the head job on the Plains. But to me, you got Northwestern here, a team that loves to play defense. They proved that they can play with Ohio State, who you would say is a much better team than Auburn, has just as many, if not more, athletes than Auburn. And Northwestern just plays such great defense. I don't know about you, Mick. I'm not impressed by Bo Nix through 2 years. He's okay. He's not fantastic. And I think Northwestern can give him a lot of problems.
Northwestern played good defense in a loss to Ohio State. It's really, to me, hard to kind of get an idea of what Ohio State is because they didn't really play that many games. Northwestern lost twice. They also lost to Michigan State. They're going to try to play good defense and run the football. I think Auburn should have better players. Auburn dealt with some injuries this year, obviously, without the head coach. I feel like you never get the good calls when you don't have your head coach. Like when Bama played in that Shreveport game, with in 2000, what was it, like 2000 and
unfortunately there's more than one.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, where Andre Smith caught the touchdown and they had the fill-in coach that had the gravelly voice.
Joe Kynes, Joe Kynes halftime speech.
Yeah. And it just seemed like every call went against Alabama in that game. And I always looked at these like interim coach situations kind of the same way. It's hard for these interim coaches to win, in a close game. But Auburn should have better players than Northwestern. And then you look at the way that Auburn's played in bowl games lately. Last year they lost to Minnesota coming off of an Iron Bowl win. This year they lost to Alabama, but it wasn't the same season because they didn't finish with that game. They won their last game. I'm so just perplexed with this one.
Yeah, and they match up really well. Like if you look at the numbers, Auburn's offense, they run the ball well because of Bigsby. And that Northwestern got tripped up in the Big Ten championship. Ohio State ran the ball very effectively because Justin Fields was struggling at the quarterback position. So that's the first thing I want to go to with Auburn when I'm trying to analyze this game. And you look at Auburn and they're more of a rushing team than they are a throwing team. But Northwestern is equally as good on the defensive side of the ball in terms of nationally ranked defense. Auburn rushes for 170 a game. Northwestern gives a little over 150 a game. So they're very evenly matched up and down the ranks offensively and defensively. And I think it's going to come down to what kind of mistakes Bo Nix makes. That's what I believe is going to hinge on this game is Bo Nix is either going to win it or lose it. And if you go back and look at the season, and remember last year, Bo Nix, he won the game for Auburn against Oregon to start the year. He started first time at Auburn in Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, where Bama's going to be. And he ended up winning that game in the final quarter and led the Tigers to victory. But then you go to the South Carolina game this year, lost that game for them. He threw, I believe it was 3 interceptions. That's when he and Seth Williams got into it on the bench. So I just don't see Bo like progressing. It's kind of a flat line. If he gets out of his comfort zone, he makes mistakes. And I think Northwestern can cause some problems. They just match up so well. I think Northwestern keeps it within 3.5. That would be my play. But this is a very evenly contested game.
Yeah, well, no doubt. We're going to talk about Alabama and Notre Dame. We'll talk about the Ohio State and Clemson game. We got some more bowl games coming up, but I want to bring on our friend from Pearl River Resort and the Timeout Sports Lounge, Chris Hopwood, to talk. And Chris, just scoot over a little bit. I know it's kind of crammed back here. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing really good.
Awesome. Here, scoot over. I'm going to throw the camera over here for you. That's Chad Anderson. That's our audience right there on Bama Insider.
Yep.
And you run this place. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I know it's been a very turbulent year with all the cancellations and everything, but we're playing football still.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's made it a little bit tough with the cancellations. It's been different on us this year. But we got games. The kids are staying healthy. So, I mean, we get the cancellations, but we have football. So, I mean, we're coming up to the playoffs like you were talking about and championship after that.
I've seen this place grow a lot. And, Chad, you throw in some questions if you have them for Chris. But I've seen the Timeout Sports Lounge grow a lot. You got the kiosks now, the kiosk voting. You also have the individual stations over there, which are pretty cool. And I know they're out there, too, by the main bar. The Circle Bar in the middle of Golden Moon where we're at. But what's neat is that you can gamble on there and watch whatever football game you want to watch. Not that there's not enough games on in here, but
yeah, well, those terminals are actually great. They're like a VIP situation. Whatever games we offer in play, you can watch those games on the terminal. You can actually plug a headset in and listen to the volume of the game. Where like if you're in here when we always have the volume just on one game.
Right.
So if you don't want to listen to what we want to listen to, what we're listening to, and the rest of the room's listening to, you can listen to whatever game is being shown on the terminals.
That is pretty cool. Chad, I know this is Chad. He loves kind of, playing the odds.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to sit and watch a lot of the public trends. That's what I really enjoy. Have you seen, Chris, like this year with COVID, some of those trends and all the like players in, players out, opting in, opting out, games getting canceled, shuffled around? Like, how has that impacted, or do you see anything like that's really changed a whole lot this year with the public on that kind of thing with people inside the lounge?
Well, for us, we're right in the middle of SEC country. So we still have the popularity of all the SEC teams, especially Alabama and Mississippi State. A couple of popular teams this year have been Coastal Carolina and Liberty. The way they've been playing really well. I mean, no matter what was going on, we were always heavy on those two teams. But usually it's the same popular teams. I mean, because, the talent level at these top level schools, even their second, third stringers are just as good as, I cannot say as good as their starters, but they're up there in talent level.
What do you see as the most, sorry, Mick, what do you see as like the most popular plays? Are people generally, because I'm a guy that I just pretty much will play the side or the total, most of the time the sides. But I know you offer teasers, you offer parlays, different things like what seems to be the most popular trend in football side?
Well, parlays are definitely the most popular because the more teams you add to the ticket, the higher the odds are for you to win it. Yeah. I mean, if the odds are all based off minus 110, I mean, we offer 175 for an 8-team parlay. And then, of course, if you're playing underdogs on the money line to win straight up, then, of course, your odds increase. So, I mean, we've had a couple tickets within the last couple of months that have paid off over $30,000 with people hitting their 8-teamers.
Wow. That would be a great day, right?
8-teamer. Yeah. I would be good to just hit a 2-teamer. So an 8-teamer is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys have put a lot of precautions in place because of COVID. And like I walk in and, I mean, we're not wearing masks. We're sitting here doing this broadcast. Everywhere else, though, masks on. You got someone checking temperatures, what is it, blue light to kill stuff. I mean, like, right. Look, I'm not an expert on this, but people running around cleaning. What all have I missed something? And what all have you guys done to try to make it more comfortable during this pandemic?
Well, our upper management and all the team here want to do as much as possible to make the guests feel comfortable here. We feel we're doing more than any other property in the country, but we have dividers between our kiosks. We have dividers between our associates and the guests. Like you said, we check temperatures when they come through the door. They got to wear the mask. I mean, except when they're eating, of course, they're drinking something. But otherwise, they're being told by our security to put their masks up and the other associates. I mean, we're just being very cautious about it because we want to keep everyone healthy to come to our property.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, still, it's fun to kind of get back into the scene again, too. You know, everything was shut down for a while and then it's starting to pick back up. And then coming in here and I see all the games and, you know, and all the odds. And I know I'm interested in football. We were talking about March Madness. What are some of the other sports besides college football and basketball that you guys see a lot of play on?
Well, some of the things that have picked up because of COVID is soccer's picked up, hockey's picked up. Baseball, we got when we came out of our lockdown, we kind of had a little bit of baseball season going on left, and we had that. So it's the customers are picking up on a lot more sports and realizing we offer more than just the major four sports.
Oh, no doubt. And I got a cousin that plays like overseas women's tennis,
right?
You know, at a casino where he lives. Like, it's crazy, right? But
yeah, I mean, we take all the tennis around the world, the men's and women's tennis. I mean, and then, of course, if you've been in here on the weekends, I'm pretty sure Alabama game tomorrow is going to be packed in here. And then, of course, followed that by the Clemson Ohio State game.
When you have games like that, is the casino at risk every time Alabama plays? Like if they go on a run for the year where they just cover over and over and over, is it brutal at that point after a little while?
Yeah, if they cover, because we're so close to Alabama as well, I believe we're like an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa. I mean, when they're playing a road game, most of the fans come here anyway, if not the regular fans that can't go. But yeah, if they covered every game, we would be in trouble. I mean, last week with the Florida game, I mean, if you looked at the industry line around the world, I think that by the time the game closed, it was like 16.5. We were still at 20 because we just couldn't get anybody to bet on Florida.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they would have won.
Yeah, turned out good. It was an 8-point game. But Bama gets on these rolls where they just
right.
kill people. I mean, like, what do you guys have the Notre Dame game at right now? I know that it's like 19.5 on, I guess in Vegas, but what's
right.
it here?
We're at 21 right now.
21, yeah.
I mean, about just before I came over here, I looked. It was about 85% of the money still on Alabama, and that's the way it was with the Florida game too. So it's like no matter what we do, we just can't get any money on the other team.
Right. Yeah.
No Alabama fans to win, but then also pull the whole game for Devontae Smith not to score touchdown. So yeah. It's a struggle. Chris, do you guys, and I haven't had the opportunity to visit yet because of COVID and the whole thing within the last year, but do you guys live in-game betting?
Yeah, we have in-play betting for just about every sport. Right now we have the Mississippi State games going on. We have in-play for that. College basketball, it's usually more the TV games, but NFL, NFL and then college football, all the major games, we have all that in-play betting.
What's really cool too is,
sorry, I was just wondering, what do you see from people's reactions? Do you get a ton of that? Because that's one of my favorite things, the in-game bet where you can get a feel of what's going on and then make a decision on a game. But do you get a action there?
Well, I'm like you. I think in-play betting is probably going to be more of the future right now. But the one thing that's different here in the States compared to Europe is our sports move a whole lot faster than the European sports, and the scoring's a lot faster. So the lines are always up and down with the adjustments of the algorithms, so it's kind of hard to get bets in unless you're doing straight bets like you're talking about, because a lot of our guests like to do parlays, and when they're trying to parlay 2 in-play games, it makes it a little tough to get it in there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You guys still have the great deal, too, where if you come over and bet, $50, you get a round of golf for $30
right.
at Dancing Rabbit. And you would know, Chad, it's voted one of the top 40 courses that you can play, and that includes you. Chad thinks he's Tiger Woods over there on the golf course.
Yeah, so we have the 2 courses over there, and you can play it either. You can pick either one to play at. And of course, you have the one that looks similar to the one over there in Georgia.
Yeah, Augusta, right? Yeah, it really is phenomenal. Though the golf course here in Philadelphia, the one that you guys have, because you can come over and play it. It's affordable. Come over here and gamble, do that, and then go play golf. And you're not going to find a better spot, a better golf course in the state of Mississippi. As a matter of fact, it's been ranked as the top golf course in Mississippi.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful course. I've been out there a few times. I mean, I've been overly busy here with all the changes and everything going around, but I love both golf courses. I mean, coming from Vegas, I played some of the better ones out there, and then these are definitely that same quality. And like you said, for $30, I
can't beat it. And that's like coming over here and getting to do this, and then going over there and getting to do that. It makes for a pretty good weekend.
No,
Chad, any other questions for Chris?
No, I love it. I'm so glad that sports betting has expanded, like we were talking about in the open, Mick. Just kind of expanded the horizons. I do laugh because of the line movements that you guys have to endure because of being an SEC country when you get popular games like that. So, but no, it's fantastic setup, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, Chris, anything else?
Well, I mean, it's great being here. I mean, like I said, I came from Las Vegas for 18 years, and then came here, and it's a different shock for me. But I mean, I've always loved SEC football, and this location is perfect to always just deal with SEC sports. I mean, because I mean, they're kind of the best conference in the state.
Oh,
I mean, in the nation. I mean.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Chris, thanks for the accommodations and hanging out. We're excited about having the Bama Insider Tailgate show from here as well. It's just been fun kind of kicking it and going through all these different games and giving people some tips. And the entire season, we've been doing the same thing, too, where, we talk about the lines. But being this close to where I can go gamble,
right,
it makes me excited. So.
Chris, I do have one more I want to throw at you real quick because we were talking about the lines and how people get so heavy on one side. Who makes the decision on when you do reverse line movements? So to explain that too, like when a game is being bet one side and the line actually goes the opposite way, how does that factor in the algorithms and what you guys are doing?
Are you talking about like for what happened with the Florida game yesterday when none of the players were playing?
Well, yeah. I mean, like if an NFL game comes up, we saw it last week with the Redskins and Panthers, I believe, or the Washington football team. Sorry, and Panthers is a guy. Yeah, I know. So if Washington started -3 in the week, according to Vegas, 60% of the plays or so were on Washington, but the line went to Carolina -1. So if it starts at Washington as the favorite and the money's on Washington, or the ticket play is, you would think it would go to Washington -3.5 or 4. And instead it went 4 points the other way. I was just curious how that algorithm builds in.
Well, some of it's different. I mean, if it has to do with new information with players being out or different things like that, that would play into it. And then we have to look at it like it's a brand new game and we have to forget that other money and then play off of the new line. If it's not new information and there's nothing changed, that's where we're doing something different than the rest of the industry. I don't completely flip like everyone else does. And I'm still trying to get my money back on the other side. Because if you play it that other way and just follow the rest of the industry without getting the money, it's more of a volatile thing for the sports book to deal with that money because we didn't take anything bet, and then we're still having all this hold on Washington. So everyone's doing things differently right now, and I hate saying it, but this industry's got to a point where it's been like a copy and paste for a long time, where it's like they just follow a couple of major players in Vegas or offshore and just copy what they do and not do anything different. And that's what I'm trying to do different here and show people that there's a different way to do things.
Is your strategy to always just be completely balanced equally on each side?
Well, you can never be completely balanced. I mean, that's theoretically what you want to do. But, I mean, we have our own opinions here. And then, I mean, I'm trying to get a little bit of the money back before I make a move. It's just it makes it less volatile. And it seems to be working for what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Sure. It's a lot of fun.
It's a great place to come hang out. For those of you that haven't been here yet, it's in Choctaw, Mississippi, Philadelphia, Mississippi. You got the Timeout Sports Lounge is where we're at. It's part of Pearl River Resort, the Golden Moon Casino, Silver Star. There's just a lot of stuff to do. And for those that are in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, anywhere nearby, it's a quick trip over. And I'll tell you, once you get here, it's like its own world, getting to hang out and do all this fun stuff. So I hit a 3-team parlay last year, Chad. It was like,
wow.
I turned 20 into 104. Just remember that.
Is that like hitting the 0-0, Mick?
It was like 0-0 in the house. Hey, Chris, thanks so much, man.
No problem.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, let's talk about the next bowl game as we, kind of do the same, look at all these different cool bowl games that are coming up, Chad. And the best part about it is this one is the Alabama bowl game. The college football playoff against Notre Dame, Mac Jones and the Crimson Tide against Ian Book and the Irish. Bama and here, 22 points. In Vegas, 19.5, just depending on where you're at. But what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, one thing that drives me nuts is everybody wants to go back to a couple of different stats that are really just so irrelevant when it comes to today's game. And they want to go back to look at what Alabama did to Notre Dame in the 2012 national championship game when it was the BCS down in Miami. And then people want to talk about what Notre Dame has done in big bowl games going back. I think it was all the way to 2001. They lost the Fiesta Bowl to Oregon State 41-9. And then if you go through every time Notre Dame appeared in one of the big bowls, they've just been completely whack. Clemson beat Notre Dame a couple of years ago. I believe the final score was 30-3. But those are just completely different teams. It has no bearing on the game at hand. So I do think, Bama has shown, though, that week in, week out, Alabama's the best country right now. The defense, yes, has given up points. Ole Miss was one of the worst defensive performances I've seen out of Alabama, maybe ever. The Florida game, it was strange because Bama played pretty good defense, but then they still gave up 46. It's like I watched the game and there were moments you were frustrated, but then you almost just respect how good Trask, Pitts, and Tony all were together on the field. And so I still think Bama's defense is good. Nick Saban has said it this year. The game has changed. You're not winning games anymore by a final score of 27-10. It's just not happening. The game now 38-31. They're 45-40. They're 39-30, whatever. And so I look at the game though with Bama and I say all that, and I actually think this will be one that still it's going to be hard for Notre Dame to keep up with Bama. Notre Dame may score some points. They've got a good defense. Not everybody gives them credit for that. Ian Book is sneaky quick with his feet, and that Alabama team some trouble in the past with the mobile quarterbacks. He's not mobile in the sense of what you may think, like a Manziel or something, but he can still move around and create a backyard football, I guess, if you will. Bama's just got too many weapons, though. I mean, how do you stop Bama is really it. Because if you want to duke it out and just trade scores, Bama can score anytime they want. And if you the S championship, Bama didn't score in the third quarter. But it also looked like Alabama almost went into this mode of we want to just start grinding that clock out. We're up, we're ahead, 2-3 possessions, we got the ball. We just want to have some slower, methodical 5, 6, 7-minute drives rather than these 5-play 2-minute drives where you hit Devontae for 50 yards and a touchdown. And so, I just think Notre Dame is going to have a real problem on the offensive side keeping up with Alabama because so far this year, no defense has really shown that they can stop Alabama and keep them below 40. I mean, Bama's scored 35 or more every single game going back to the 2019 national championship game against Clemson, which was the 18 season where Clemson won 44-16. So Alabama is going to score, and I just don't think Notre Dame can keep up.
He's Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillespie, Bama Insider, doing a little bit of a bowl preview show from Pearl River Resort here in Philadelphia, Mississippi, talking Alabama, now talking switching gears to the other college football playoff game, and that would be this guy right here, Trevor Lawrence, and the Clemson Tigers, last year's runner-up for a national champion, and they'll take on Ohio State, a team that they beat last year in the playoffs. Your thoughts on this one?
It's so hard because we still, and we said it, we don't know what to think of Ohio State. I will say I think Justin Fields is probably not as good as everybody has made him out to be. You go back, though, to last year's matchup, Clemson, Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl, and Ohio State really controlled that game and exposed some of Clemson's defense. And Clemson was missing T. Higgins for part of that game due to an injury. He came back in the second half, and that's what gave Trevor Lawrence more options on the offensive side to allow them to eventually catch up and then take over and win the game against the Buckeyes. So I think that Clemson is, what do you think of Dabo? I'm
Look,
kind of
I
curious
like
on
that,
that.
though. I mean, I like the fact that he's calling out Ohio State for only playing 6 games and saying they could be a champion and only play 8 games. I'm just curious, though, like what's the 7-point line right now, 7.5, depending on where you're looking at it. Clemson's the favorite. That seems like a lot of points for Ohio State. But then when you watch them play, it's like he's got this feeling that Clemson's going to roll him.
Yeah, I do too, to be honest with you. I don't like to let motivation be the influence on laying aside. And Ohio State, I think, has the bigger chip. And then Dabo has basically them locker room bulletin board material with the whole ranking them 11th in his poll and talking about how they don't deserve to be there because they only played 6 games. I don't disagree with him, but it's just interesting that he goes out and publicly says that. The one thing here I think that is the separator, Clemson's offense is 7th in the nation in passing. Ohio State's defense, Mick, 103rd in the country in passing. So if you're going to put Trevor Lawrence against a team that is outside of the top 100 in passing defense, he's going to pick you apart all day. And I don't think Justin Fields is equally as good on the quarterback side. Trevor is much better than Justin Fields. So unless Ohio State can come out, set the tone, punch Clemson in the mouth early, that's their only shot. If Clemson's done and Ohio State's defense is weaker than it was a year ago when Clemson won, I'm with you. I don't really see how Ohio State is able to get Clemson.
Let's go through a couple more games quickly as we wrap up the show. And I'm just going to do 2 more. We're going January 2nd now. Let's look at Ole Miss versus Indiana. This is at Raymond James Stadium. That's an 11:30 a.m. game. I'm looking forward to this one. What are they? The old Outback Bowl, right? And
Yeah.
I love the fact that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are playing against this Indiana team that Ohio State beat. That's like their signature win for the season.
No, it is. Yeah. I mean, who would have ever thought Ohio State's bragging about beating Indiana as their argument to get into the college football playoff? What a world we live in 2020 when the Hoosiers are ranked in the top, what are they, in the top 15 right now?
Yeah.
And their basketball team is unranked. That's where we are in 2020. So, Indiana is missing their quarterback, Penix, who tore his ACL. I believe that was maybe the Wisconsin game, or maybe it was the week before that contest. But he tore his ACL, is out for the year. You give Lane Kiffin some time to prepare an offensive scheme, which he's had a couple of weeks here to get ready. And Lane is one of those guys that this gave everything to him. And not to say that Allen in Indiana as well, because they haven't won a bowl game, I believe, since the 80s. But this is a good one to me. It's going to be a lot of offense, a lot of points. Ole Miss's defense, even though Indiana has a backup quarterback, Ole Miss's defense is atrocious. You go and look at their schedule. Any games that they've been playing this year, even they win, they gave up 41 to Kentucky, but still won the game in overtime. They gave up 21 to Vanderbilt. They gave up 42 to a god-awful South Carolina team. They gave up 24 to Mississippi State that for one stretch of the year scored, I think, like 5 points in 3 weeks. They gave up 53 to LSU. So they give up so many points. I actually think Indiana will come away with this one. But that total of 65, it scares me because it is so obvious.
Right.
So nobody's going to stop anybody. I think Indiana will just get more stops. But, man, that total 65, how do you not take the over in that?
Yeah, right. It just feels like a good bet. All right, final one we're going to do. The Capital One Orange Bowl, Texas A&M against North Carolina. That is 7 Central. You can watch it on ESPN. Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Yeah, I love this one. Like, I feel like – and I got to go back and look at the opt-outs, right? Because I know that North Carolina's got 2 running backs and a receiver out, right? but they still have their quarterback in there. We saw it with Kyle Trask in Florida. You start taking those weapons away, and they become very mortal. I think Texas A&M's very motivated right now. They should have been in the college football playoff. I'd have had them in instead of Notre Dame, or Ohio State. Either one of those two teams. But they're out. They're the number 5 team. They win this, they're going to be a top 3 finish.
Mick, do you think that the committee, when they do the playoff selection, do you think they look at your brand overall in previous years and how you're trending as a program?
I do. I mean, I really felt like Notre Dame and Ohio State got the nod because they were the better brand.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to, but I think it's hard as humans not to favor in that direction. And I think that's why Texas A&M needs this game. And yeah, North Carolina, they've got a lot of opt-outs, people questionable, people out for personal reasons. And this is Texas A&M's opportunity on a big stage. They're going to be the final game before the national championship on January 11th. And Saturday night, prime time, everybody's going to be watching. No other bowl game going on at this point. And this is their opportunity to really prove, and for Jimbo Fisher to prove, hey, I'm worth the 10-year, $75 million contract you gave me. This is year 3. I think we got screwed out of not getting in the playoffs. Our only loss was to Alabama. We're a good program, a good team. We're strong. You go out and you have to beat North Carolina in this spot and then prove to the world that, hey, we belong. We're just trying to catch Alabama at this point. And so that's why I think it's so important for A&M to really come out here.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, I think for A&M, it's like, you're looking at this Carolina team and an ACC that's not really that good. This Carolina team was ranked, but, when they played against the Notre Dames and the Clemson type teams, they weren't able to stay on the same field with them. I think they've got some momentum, but they're not quite there yet. A&M's close. I mean, look, they went through that gauntlet of playing all SEC teams, and maybe they didn't look impressive doing it, but they won every game besides Alabama, and Alabama didn't lose one. So, they end up number 2 in the conference, and then now they have an opportunity in this big game to go out and kind of put a stamp on this season, help in recruiting and everything else that you do, and also build worth of the program. You win this, and all of a sudden people are looking at you for next year as well. I just don't think Texas A&M is going to take this lightly, and I think they're going to cover. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to play a great game.
They've got to do something to show everybody so that Nick Saban will quit coming to Texas and taking all the recruits. Nick Saban's just picking them off one after the other. And tell you what, you really want to get a fan base riled up and upset, try not recruiting in your own backyard and those guys going to Alabama, who's in your own division, and then losing to them, and explain that to the boosters. It's not easy.
Yep. No, I agree. Like Kamar Wheaton, the number 1 running back, 5-star from Texas, was going to Oklahoma, really wasn't even looking at A&M. And of course, picked Alabama along with a treasure trove of guys, the Brockemeyer twins, the big offensive linemen. That
one hurt Texas.
Oh man,
that one really hurt Texas.
They say they're bigger in Texas. There is a Lone Star contingent that'll be in Alabama uniform here for the years to come. Yeah. Well, look, let's pack this thing up. We'll see what happens with these games. Thank everyone at Pearl River Resort, the Timeout Sports Lounge, for letting us hang out. Chris Hopwood for jumping on and kind of going through the different things that we do in gambling and all the great things that are going on here. And it's been fun kind of, picking these games. So just for the record, Alabama, you got Alabama to cover against Notre Dame and take the over?
For the Alabama game, it's hard not to take Bama. Bama's going to score in the 40s. That means Notre Dame would have to score 24 to keep up and keep it within the number. I don't think they can do that. So I would take Alabama. I probably won't play it, but if you're going to play, it's Alabama or nothing.
All right, and then Clemson. Take Clemson, give up the points. We're laying a lot of points on the table in these games.
Yeah, that's a lot of chalk between the two games. But what two teams are better than Alabama and Clemson? And Clemson, I think, is going to be looking back at last year's game, and Ohio State's defense is weaker this year. And I think Clemson and Trevor Lawrence are going to expose them.
All right, Texas A&M, North Carolina, 7.5. You laying that on the table?
Yeah, I'll still lay it with A&M.
All right, how about Cincinnati and Georgia?
On this one, JT Daniels, it's all about what kind of game he has, but I think Luke Fickell can draw up enough defense and enough plays to hold the Bulldogs out of the end zone. I think Georgia wins, but I actually think Cincinnati, with a little bit of motivation and point to prove, will keep it within 7.
See, I think that I'd mortgage the house on Georgia. I think they're going to run right over them, but we'll find out. What other game we looked at? Auburn and Northwestern.
I would take Northwestern here. I think it's a field goal game either way, so you get 3.5. Take the hook there, and I think you'll be safe with Northwestern.
Ole Miss, Indiana.
I don't know on the side because I think it's 8. I feel like such a square by taking the over here, but how can you not take over 65? Like they may have 60. I saw 65. I thought it was the first half line, and it's the game. And I don't know how you don't take over 65 in that game.
All right. Well, Chad, thanks for doing it, man. Happy New Year coming up tomorrow, and we'll get together for the Bama Insider Tailgate Show. Kyle Henderson, Chris Lowe. We got Mike Singer from blueandgold.com. That's Notre Dame's rival site. Leonard's Loser, Lance Taylor from Lance's Lock. We got a lot of stuff coming up here when Bama takes on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and that show will be from 9 to 11 on Saturday morning, whether you're watching here on the YouTube channel or you're listening on Jocks Radio in Birmingham. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome lineup. Thanks for having me, man. Fun.
All right, buddy.